This is actually the second half of the troll playthrough for Anbennar. I'd recommend watching the first half if you haven't already, but the gist is this. We're trolls in the frigid wastelands north of Kannor. Long after the giants retreated north, we banded together to form a unified tribe and set forth to reclaim the lands once held by said giants. So far, we've secured much of the Garudian Sea and formed Garudagot, the Empire of Trollkin. Congratulations everybody, you managed to get the first part of this Anbennar playthrough to the highest like-to-view ratio I have ever gotten on a video ever in this channel's 8-year-long history. The ratio is so much higher than most videos, in fact, that it's like kinda suspicious. Like, I don't have any proof of this, but if it were like-botted, then I would not be surprised at all. And if it wasn't, then you guys just really wanted to see the part 2, I guess. Here we are back in Garudagot. We had just formed the new country, and we have a lot more missions to get through. I believe this is all of them, and I don't know how long they'll take, but hopefully we can fit this into a part 2, and we won't need a part 3. That would be great. First order of business, we do want to go ahead and sell some titles, see some more of that crown land back. We do, at the very least, need that money for courthouses. Could also let that spread a little bit more. Wouldn't be a terrible idea. Now, for the low price of 1 kidney, we can embrace colonialism, which is going to require a couple of loans, but definitely worth grabbing so that we can start grabbing this technology. Third idea group, I'm thinking either diplomatic or espionage ideas. We'll go with espionage, that's fine. While Laurent is unwilling to help these guys, I will just go ahead and conquer them real quick. Monstrous Conquest does increase our monstrosity, but it doesn't really matter that much. You ever have one of those battles where you think like, I might be able to win this, but it's slim, and then you go into that battle and roll a 0, then a 0, then a 1, and every single roll you have is just worse than the other person's roll, consistently, without fail, during every single phase? See, this is what it would look like if I had actually decent rolls. Wow, isn't that easy? Isn't that a really simple fight? With reform, I think most of my casualties are actually, well, okay, a lot of them are due to attrition. Could probably reduce that attrition. Okay, Vrorin March, I'm gonna ask for something like this. War reps, break some alliances, specifically because I want them to lose all of their alliances before I come back and invade them again. Which means we do need a somewhat short truce, make sure that works the way that I want it to. And then of course we'll just annex this guy, nobody cares. As we are now an empire and no longer a small tribe, we need to exhibit our newfound wealth and strength by rebuilding the old capital of the giants. We lose 300 crowns, but we get Redgarhaven as a new capital, which will begin to produce cloth and be renamed, as well as moving some of our development from our old capital to our new one. That does unfortunately kind of mess up the trade, so I'm gonna have to fix that as soon as possible. Oh yeah, kind of forgot I'm supposed to invade these guys too. Just got the first age ability, obviously religious wars, and then we can take all that. We're gonna go back to war again with Vrorin March. It's unfortunate that they are no longer a valid rival, so I won't get any power projection, but it is what it is. Let's say we're pretty much done with this war. It is going to be quite a bit of overextension, but I think we can solve that. Not a huge deal. I'm trying to take as much stuff over to the east as possible. I'll leave them with this stuff over here. Man, I keep forgetting to do this. Just sold titles before, and then, you know, would have gotten more crown land when I actually took the land. Anyway, I kind of forgot to mention we did finish this mission off just by default. We find orcs to be pretty similar to humans, especially in the most important aspect, which is that both need to learn their place. We get our 25% manpower recovery speed for 20 years, kind of helpful. We have taken all of the territory we need for this mission as well. We've since decided that because orcs fight well and taste bad, that they're closer to ogres than humans, but not by a lot. So we can put them under the command of the ogres, and if they refuse to follow orders, then we will simply eat them. We could choose to get Grey Orc as an accepted culture for free. It doesn't give us an additional slot, it's just saving us a few points. In exchange, several areas have significantly raised minimum local autonomy for the next 30 or so years. I don't think that's worth it. We'll just take the bottom option. For the tier 6 reform, I did just pick up general estates. Now, we do have somewhat of an issue. We did have that colonist for a while. Unfortunately, we didn't have that colonist for long enough, because in our missions, we do require a single additional province colonized. You can see I tried to get there in time, but we were just barely too short. Now, I could wait until I get Admin Tech 14 to pick up expansion ideas, get the first idea in expansion put down that colonist, and then get rid of the idea group just so I can have that province. But considering how much is locked behind this one province not being colonized, I think I'm willing to go ahead and do a little bit of cheating. Just a tiny little bit for this one province. Just to avoid locking my mission tree behind another 30 years of doing nothing. Probably a good idea. Then we can give it 5 mil development and finish off this mission. Yersiki, Heartland. Heartland for all trolls. Here, the first frost troll was made, shaped from ice, shaped from stone, by the frost giants, great and strong. We too, great and strong. We will honor their gift. We get a little development and a permanent modifier, giving us slightly increased goods produced in that one province. And with our empire re-established, it is paramount that we reclaim all that was once lost to our forebears. We march relentlessly to the east until all that is cold and beautiful is ours and the empire of the Giantkin owns the north. We get a permanent claim on the Northern Pass region. We also get another 50 years of that one colonist and 25 global settler increase. And we're going to get to work on colonizing this little area of the Serpent Spine here. As we continue exploring east, we found our long-lost Giantkin. These Mossmouth ogres are unfortunately under the control of Shattered Crown, but we get to finish this mission anyway. We received an emissary from these ogres who are begging for our assistance in claiming the Vale. They claim to be under grave threat from marauding dwarves, but it seems to me like you have a bit of an orc problem. Now we have 2 real options, because I don't know why anybody wouldn't take one of the top 2, but we get a permaclaim on the Serpent's Vale region regardless. We can choose between a whole bunch of money and getting a free accepted culture as well as 1 culture conversion. And you know what? The top is definitely worth more, but I'm still going to take the middle one. Reachability is not too bad, especially because I can bump it up by 1. We have very cheap ability, and then we can take that for the number 3. We have actually found Myrma alive, surprisingly. Now, technically, we are the ones with the claims, but in theory, we could go after Shattered Crown and give a bunch of stuff over to Myrma. After all, this stuff doesn't technically need to be owned by me, could be a subject. Old king is dead, new king's pretty decent. Do we have an heir? No. Well, that's fine, as long as we don't get a bad heir. Having built a mage tower in Balvrorin, we can now finish off another mission. We will rebuild Balvrorin, which seemingly used to be a prison for the last of the true giants, but instead we will rebuild it as a castle guarding the northern passage. The province gets renamed and it gets a few more development, as well as a runic ward for the rest of the game, giving it increased manpower and defensiveness and reduced hostile movement speed. With those 3 missions complete, we can finish the Ordning. The world we live in has always, in its prime, untampered form, operated under a very simple assertion. The big rule over the small and the small follow. Our giant forebears knew this fact well, and the tales of old sing of the great caste they operated under, with the greatest and largest of the Yuthun having unquestioned rule over their smaller and weaker brethren. If we are to truly recreate the state of the empire of our forebears as they intended, we must recreate the system of governance for ourselves and create something that will last as long as their civilization had, if not longer. We trolls will rule at the peak of this reforged system, our greater minds and sizes dictating our right to rule. Just beneath us are our brotherkin, the ogres, who will use their impeccable eyes and intelligence to monitor and govern the more technical and delicate aspects of state management, like keeping track of populations and the Dryal. The orcs will be the 3rd rung of our great pyramid, serving as our unquestioning generals and zealous soldiers of our front line. Finally, at the bottom are the men, the Drail with their squishy flesh and smugness, forever bound to work for our purposes, or else. We lose 100 Diplo power and we enact the Ordning. It gives us plus 10% tax modifier, a little bit of monthly autonomy reduction, and plus 2 max promoted cultures. Ooh, we do have new unit models and animations, nice. Wouldn't want to be the guy bringing a spear to a cannon fight though. Just finished the last of those espionage ideas. We do get that minus 15% core creation cost, as well as the minus 2 national unrest. As for the policies, that's a pretty good one, and that one's pretty okay. We can now go ahead and peacefully vassalize Myrma. This will let us take out strong duchies as well. I could use that to actually start integrating this subject, because we don't really need to have them around. So I can also get my integration policy. Our truce with Vorin March is up. I don't think we'll get the opportunity to fully annex them, but we'll see what we can do. What do you know? Full annexation actually does work. It is 141% overextension, and it will cause an actual coalition, but that's not a big deal. We can turn ourselves into an empire for more governing capacity. Very nice. Actually not too bad to core all this stuff either. Wow, that's really bad air. Okay, well, you're getting thrown out to sea. Good luck swimming out there. For the tier 7 reform, I actually don't mind picking up dynastic administration, because although we do get the yearly corruption, we also have espionage ideas, so it doesn't really matter. Printing press did spawn a little bit ago, and I know it's never going to reach me if I don't develop it, so I might as well get started on that. The best province to develop it would be the capital. The problem is it's not the best province for being able to spread the institution, but I'm sure I can figure something out, because I do want to develop the capital. I'll even give it a level 3 center of trade. We do have 2 missions that require us to go to war with Shattered Crown. Since we are at war with the owner of the Amaldir province, we can finish off this mission. It talks about going head to head with the race that had driven our forebears to ruin, except in this case they're referencing the dwarves, not the orcs that we're actually fighting right now. But nonetheless, we do get our permaclaims in the general area. Absolutely disgusting stack wipe. That leaves them with half the army they used to have. Ooh, that's not going to be a very good battle, probably. And I'm right, but at the very least, the casualties aren't the worst, and should have bought us enough time for their capital. Perfect. Turns out if you accept trollish refugees, you get an extra 50% power projection from insults. So every time we do a scornful insult, we get 25 power projection. Possibly the best country in Anbennar, I think. With this peace deal, we can kick the orcs completely out of the area, take the seat of the old Dwarven Empire for ourselves, and complete 2 missions in the process. As for our subject, we can hand them a bunch of stuff. Since I'm able to core all the stuff up in the middle pretty easily, I can just hand off all of this to my subject, and the coalition is dissolving. Lovely. Now, on top of that, we're also going to need to finish off this one province down here. Do a quick reconquest for that. With that complete, the ogres have a new home. Basically, the ogres used to own this land, then all the orcs, goblins, and dwarves came in, and now we've given it back to them. We get an event for our reward. We can change the culture in the entire Serpent's Vale to Mossmouth Ogre, give them increased minimum autonomy, reduced unrest, makes them happier, I guess. Bottom option just creates separatists. So you guys can have that, that's fine, I don't really care. Seems like if you give all the provinces over to your subject first, it doesn't actually apply all those modifiers anyway, which is interesting. Oh yeah, we did get a ton of money from that mission. Let me go ahead and repay all of my loans. And also, we can rediscover the art of ebon steel. Costs 2,000 crowns, but it gives us access to ebon steel infantry. Not that I really know what those do. Let's see, increased land maintenance modifier, reduced reinforcement speed, but significantly reduced fire and shock damage received. Reduced manpower usage, that's okay, I guess. Increased morale damage. Well, see, if we stack that with our minus 10% fire damage received from our military, plus another minus 10% fire damage received from one of our ideas, and then these things receive minus 15% fire damage, that's minus 35%. And then also minus 30% total shock damage received. So yeah, pretty good units, I would say. We've consolidated enough of the Chill of Bays. I think we could probably move our trade capital over here. You know, I never even realized, but Vorin March managed to get exiled to the New World. Man, interesting that they ever had the range for this, considering they don't have exploration ideas, just expansion. So that's kind of weird. Having cored all of Amaldir, we can now burn it to the ground for a little bit of prestige and presumably additional money and development. Next idea group, I don't remember what I said I was going to take, but given the governing capacity, I think we could use some admin ideas. We do have to go after Krakdumvror for a few of their provinces. Having expanded into the Lonely Mountains, we found a new supply of materials that our army of human slaves can mine for us. So each of those provinces receives improved local production efficiency and local goods produced, as well as a little bit of unrest. We do need to take a few provinces from Krakdumvror. The Dwarf Wars did take a little bit longer than I expected. Some of that stuff has been occupied by somebody else in a separate war. We can grab everything we need, maybe not everything that we want, but it's close enough. And we have adventurers now, right, that makes sense because we're no longer monstrous. Okay, so we can hand out more land rights, that's good. We finally made it to the furthest place east that the Giants ever reached, the border between the Northern Pass and the Forbidden Plains in the east. And as we arrived, we've been made aware of the ogres to the south that live on this side of the mountain range, so just like we've been friends with these ogres over here, we might as well bring the eastern ogres under our banner. We get 1 permaclaim on our region. When we took the capital of Krakdoomvor, we also finished off this mission by coring it. I'm not sure what this mission means, so I'll read it out loud and you can decide. Though desolate it may be to the eyes of the untrained individual, the walls of this hold held hostage the power of our forebears, and with its fall we restore that original balance held by nature over these lands, regrowing the order that once was before the encroachment of dwarves and men. We get 40 years of reduced construction cost and construction time, although I'm not really sure why Krakdoomvor is so important. It's a hold, there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of dwarves, it's been developed, but what else does it have? At last we will embrace the institution, that we can pick up the new techs in the next 2 months. And now that we've done that, actually, it seems like the entire coalition is collapsing, which is perfect, because that means hopefully I can just go up to Bone Carver and say, hey, please give me that province, and we won't have to fight each other. Because I don't think I need anything else other than this. That's literally it. 20 aggressive expansion for that one province is really horrible, actually. And it does make me wonder if I could get away with just invading them for the province, if it would be less than 20 aggressive expansion. Or it's actually the same amount. I did not think about that. Wait, people actually like you? Yeah, I guess you are. Or a knight. Okay, fine. I actually just didn't expect that it would take that much aggressive expansion. Kind of thought it would be cheaper than that, but okay. This should be one of the last wars we have to fight with Gawed. Looks like it won't be very easy either. We are technically outnumbered, but I'm sure it'll be fine. We are having some absolutely brutal fighting so far. Casualty ratios are a little bit closer than I would like them to be, so maybe not the greatest way that it could have ended, but I did manage to get all the things that I needed, those being these 3 provinces over here from the Gnomish hierarchy, this one province from Gawed, and then a bunch of money. And that does let us finish off 2 missions. We see Garudia as the Giants territory that we have a right to reclaim, for the most part. And having done so, we get 40 years of 25% culture conversion cost reduction. Having seized this coastline, here we now have access to a couple of warm ocean ports. Also a cool insight, we have little dragonfly spy drones. That's pretty neat. Anyway, we just get a couple of claims. Truce with Krakdoomvor is up. Gotta make sure we declare war before they join this coalition. Easily secured everything we need. After building 20 shipyards, we can finish off this mission. Not much to say, just gonna expand the navy. So we get some ship cost reduction for 30 years. Actually could use that to build a whole bunch of boats. We get another blessing for our religion. We'll go with development cost. We actually have another one, so I'll also grab the infantry combat ability. Just had to wait for this one to finish. I guess we're going to expand the pastures for the mammoths. Cool. Basically, let's just have more mammoths. 2 of our regions get local development cost reduction and friendly movement speed. Second mission also required prosperity. We have another excerpt from The History of Giantkin and Man by Baroness Illyria Surstein. It makes a case for a common motivation that's universal between humans, trolls, orcs, and ogres, and etc. And that is that all of these kinds of peoples, as it says, have the universal motivation to survive and propagate. And that all these people share in the joy of giving space and freedom for their children to laugh and enjoy themselves. So the Dollar region also gets local development cost reduction and increased manpower. Given how much time has passed between the Yuton leaving and where we are right now, it's impossible to say exactly what they would have wanted for the trolls to do. They probably never could have predicted that we'd be able to get this far. But we can say one thing, and that is that with this little slice of the world we've carved out for ourselves, we've done some pretty great stuff with it. Not merely as conquerors or rulers, but also as custodians of the North, protecting and restoring the natural order. So the whole Garudia subcontinent gets local development cost reduction and local goods produced. We have another 2 missions complete, one just by having a whole bunch of money. When we took the Giants' manse from the Olaf men, there was no great manse left of our Yuton forebears. The humans carved into the great stairs and closed the old doors to fit their tiny arms and legs. We have torn out these changes, and now the manse is in the old style once more, where Trollkin must climb the stairs one by one. In this way, the Yuton might return sooner to lead us south again to reclaim the Yutonlagen. But we have done more than make the manse like old. We have built 4 towers inside the walls, like giants of giants. These towers stand tall. Our troll mages will cast great and mighty spells from atop, and these spells will bring cold, and these spells will bring darkness, and these spells will bring the hatred of trolls for the defeat of the Jotun by the trickery of humankind. We lose those 5,000 crowns we get, minus 10% idea cost for 40 years, and we get a permanent modifier, Ice Towers Rebuilt. It gives us 20% ship trade power, 15% Mage's Loyalty Equilibrium, and 10% Mage's Influence. We have another excerpt from Torvik Aeon Flux. It tells of a little ice age that historians began to take note of during the end of the 17th century, although really it's the early beginnings of the 17th century for us, because I guess we're doing this a little ahead of time. Most people aren't too sure what caused the little ice age, but we, of course, know better. We lose 100 of each power point, we get an event, and until the end of the game we get quite a few bonuses. We get a general attrition for enemies +1 and minus 5% fire damage received, and 4 of our most important provinces receive 25% local manpower modifier, plus 30% local defensiveness, and minus 10% hostile movement speed. As for the event, faint, like a humming in the air, but not quite. Our mages have been murmuring for weeks of a noise in the air that only the strongest of them can hear. At first, we disregarded this because the mages are always murmuring about something or other, and it rarely matters much. This has proven different, though. They now tell us that the noise is strongest when facing north, but we are the north. There is nothing beyond our kingdom but wherever the Jotun went. That was the realization that spread through Trollkin like fire. This could finally be the Jotun's return. This could be their signal calling to us. We must seek out this signal. I actually decided to integrate Meyermaw. Might as well take all this territory myself, especially now that we've completed this mission. To assert our dominance over the old dwarven capital, we're going to tear down their statues and pillars and build our own, guarded by towers of black ice built by the power we've reclaimed from these scoundrel dwarves of the north. Each of these forts we've built in this area shall receive 2 base manpower, 25% local manpower modifier, 30% local defensiveness, and minus 10% hostile movement speed. We're getting pretty close to the end here. This is one of the last missions we have, although there are a few here and there that will be interesting to finish. Ones we don't technically have to, but I'll try. In Redgarhaven did our emperor a massive Jotun home decree, where lapped the giant's grave upon fjords measureless to man the call of a death-cold sea. So twice 5 miles of frigid ground with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens dense with alpine moss, where stood many an ice-hewn pillar, and here were stones ancient as the giants, unfolding epic halls of assembly. We lose 1,000 crowns, we gain 2 base tax in the capital, and it also receives 50% local tax modifier, yearly prestige, yearly legitimacy, and 5% admin efficiency. Seems we do have to spend some money to investigate this signal, and the expedition party has gotten lost. Alright, well, surely the second one wouldn't get lost. Man, that is a terrifying Lake Federation. And also, weird centaur tag. I've never seen that one before. Despite my best efforts in avoiding it, we will actually need to take expansion ideas to finish colonizing the north up here, because the mission tree does not give you a colonist for long enough to make that happen. It seems that when we met the ogres that lie east of the Serpent Spine, things did not go exactly according to plan. While we were hoping to dispel the myth that these ogres would cannibalize the giants, turns out not only did they do that, but they were very proud of it too. So we're gonna have to kill those guys. We finished building all of our universities, and I'm really not reading all that. TLDR, we're smart now. Cool. We gain a whole bunch of innovativeness as well as 50 years of 25% increased innovativeness gain. We found it. Part of the north frozen deep within the permafrost, the magical signal led our expedition to the top of an immense tower sticking out of the ice. They uncovered a window from the snow and began the careful descent to the floor of the inner chamber. Like dwarfkin to trollkin, this is how our trolls felt looking upon the oversized ornamentation within that palace. This was a palace of the Jotun, like what only exists in ruins throughout Garud. We knew the Jotun were great, but the size was beyond our expectation. Truly, our ancestors were right to follow in such footsteps as these, because nowhere in the world can such a wonder be found. However, the signal that led our expedition to the towers ceased the moment they entered the tower, and the source was never found. If the signal was from the Jotun, there were none left on our arrival. We must chart a route to and from the palace and send more expeditions as soon as possible. Having established safer routes to and from the Jotun Palace to the north, several of our expeditions have told us of the various treasures that have been found within. There is the Bow of Balmir, which is a blazing by never-ending fire, but using the bow sears the wielder permanently, and never shall they know peace from the feeling of burning. There is the Horn of Ufantlir, which rallies the courage of all those who hear its call. There is the Raven of Living Silver, which can speak and report the movements of our enemies. There is the Ice Menhir, from which we can read the histories and secrets of our Jotun forebears. Finally, there is the Harp of Gunnlod, whose enrapturing melody can pierce even the hardest of troll hearts. We might be able to take one of these for our monarch to use. With such an artifact, none could question our legitimacy and height as rulers of Trollkin. However, it is unwise to take more than one, or we would be seen as looters of our forebears, no better than the humans who looted the palaces of Garud. So we are given our 4 options here. The bow gives us +1 land leader fire and plus 10% fire damage, but minus 25% average monarch lifespan. The Horn gives us morale of armies and reinforced speed. The Raven gives us spy network construction and siege ability. The Menhir gives us technology cost and innovativeness gain, and the Harp gives us Diplo Rep, minus 15% aggressive expansion, and minus 20% diplomatic annexation cost. Honestly, any of these would be helpful, but I will take the top one. Now that completes this mission. 2,000 years ago, we had the return of the Jotun and the thawed king, Jormir. So we do kinda know that they're up there in the north, and we've been sending expeditions, finding a bunch of stuff until actually this most recent event means we just found what we were looking for mostly. For the rest of the game, we get 5% morale of armies and +1 yearly prestige. We can also empower the Ebon Steel runes because I have the money for it now. We can either get the land fire damage and fire damage received modifiers, or we can get the shock damage received and morale damage received modifiers. I think I'll go with the top modifier because fire damage received reduction becomes much more impactful as time goes on. This all brings me to our final war with Gawed, where we do have to take our claims up here in the north to finish off a mission. At this point, Gawed is nothing more than a speed bump. It was pretty easy to extract what I need from them. Having taken the region and built a fort, we've been able to enlist the local dragonflies as spies for us, which even then has not gone unnoticed as there's now a superstition concerning those dragonflies, and how seeing them is a sign of really bad things to come, which makes sense because we are using them as actual spies. So for the rest of the game, we get 10% foreign spy detection and 15% spy network construction, and this one fort also gains a couple of defensive bonuses. Okay, there really isn't much left for me to do here, so I'm given 2 options. Basically, I'm gonna put on a movie while I wait for this stuff to finish colonizing, or I can just do it manually through the console. Wow, crazy how fast that happened. Anyway, for generations upon generations, we had waited for the return of our Jotun forebears from the northern expanse of ice. For generations upon generations, we had been disorganized and weak in the face of human expansion. No longer. Ours was not a generation to hide in caves at the edge of the world. We have united and pushed back against the human incursions of the Dalarmen and of the Olaf men. Further still, we have recaptured the south coast from the Allen men, taking all of the old Garud for ourselves. We will not stop until all of Canor is under our control, and the Jotunlagen have been re-established as in the days of our Jotun forebears. Even so, we have accomplished what has never before been witnessed in the history of Trollkin. We have built an empire. From this generation, and for every generation to follow, this is our land. This is our law. Our current blessings will be removed, and we will have more powerful ones to pick from. Oh yeah, what do you know? It's literally just the same ones, but stronger. Okay. Now, before we finish off the final mission, there are technically 2 that I haven't done yet. This one is kind of annoying because you need naval tradition. It's not super reliable to get naval tradition. I have been protecting trade to try and bump it up, but it's still only at 33, and that would just take ages to actually get to max, or to get to 40. So I just went ahead and bumped it up by 7 so we can finish that mission off. We have the Cranmaster Division, named after Cranmas, the last Jotun king who killed his smaller brother Jormir and brought war to the Kastan men. TLDR, Cranmas was drowned at sea by the humans, and so if we want to avoid the same fate, we need to strengthen our navy. Gives us National Sailors modifier, 25% naval force limit, and 5% Marines force limit. And as for the other mission, I'm just going to wait a little bit until we have enough cavalry put down. For us to pick up that 15% cavalry combat ability, it's actually quite simple. We just go ahead and get rid of our expansion ideas, and then we pick up aristocratic, and the first idea of aristocratic does just that. TLDR, the mammoths are sad, I guess, from war, probably. So we'll make life better for the mammoths, sure. We get minus 15% cavalry cost and 20% cavalry combat ability for the rest of the game. Now we can finally finish this mission. Thus, so came to pass a new empire upon the political stage. Not an empire based on brutality like those of men, nor an empire based on duplicity like those of dwarves. No, this was an empire of diplomacy, having united the trolls, the ogres, and the orcs. This was an empire of learning, having established open universities across Garudia. This was an empire of self-sacrifice, having taken on the burden of enlightening the smaller races as to their low nature. For all that the humans and dwarves accused the trolls of was truly the ugliness that they saw within themselves, projected onto a foreign foe. No, the troll has removed the yoke of old injustice from their backs and replaced it with a yoke of common purpose. And with the rise of this new empire, so arises a new age of prosperity for the land of the Giantkin. Not even during the Jotunlagen of old was the land so justly ruled, and so may the rule of the trolls begin, and so may the Jotunlagen begin. We get the Agdirvoida Empire. The Tier 1 reform gives us a whole bunch of benefits like reduced construction cost, increased land force limit, some more governing capacity, maximum absolutism, province war score cost, that's not too bad. Although I feel like we start with that, don't we? Yeah, we have minus 10%, but we can get minus 15%, not bad. But that does complete our run as Gerudegot, the troll empire of the north. But for now, I hope you enjoyed watching today's video. I'd really appreciate it if you want to get this video to at least 3,000 likes, not because there will be another video after this in this series, but because I would just really appreciate it. I don't know. Anyways, if it's your first time here, or if you just keep on forgetting every time you watch a video, because I do that sometimes, then maybe it's a good idea to subscribe. It would be really cool if we could reach 75,000 subscribers, preferably by the end of the year, but we'll see. Anyway, for now, thank you very much for watching. This is Corbett signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day. I'd like to give a big shout out to all the people who donate monthly to the Patreon. They do receive early access to videos for as low as $1, so I'd like to give a special thank you to the people who decide to donate more than that. In particular, Erica, Baby Cal, Born to Dunk, Lickebecker, Nick Steffel, Hugh Brute, A.G. Forero, Ben Mottram, Quiet Guy, Rosette, Torvalv, Ambient Cyan, Elysia Tats, James Levy, Luke 78776, Stalin DLRP, and Robert.